Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Cole Eastvold. Cole, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, man.
For sure. So, Cole, we're just gonna kind of jump right into the couple questions I like to ask all my guests just to kind of get the conversational ball rolling, so to speak. So share with all of us, Cole, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Favorite bodybuilders of all time? I'd have to go number one, Jay Cutler. I grew up in that area. I saw him, compete with Ronnie Coleman. That's kind of what got me into bodybuilding. Other than that, some other guys like Frank McGrath, some of the guys that probably weren't like the best competitive bodybuilders, but just had a big impact on the industry. Evan Centopani, like I said, him too. He's like someone you can kind of like, as far as for myself, look at and be like, strive to like almost be that. So Evan's always been someone I've looked up to, but those three are probably some of the, you kind of relate with myself.
Excellent, man. So I got to ask you, you brought up Frank, you brought up Evan. Was Animal Pack like a pretty big influence on you in the earlier days?
Yeah, I think anyone who like started doing bodybuilding in the 90s, saw the ads, thought that was probably the coolest thing in the world. They strive to want to like be an animal athlete. And, it's just they had that old school stigma. So it's definitely something I was drawn to.
Very cool, man. Me too. I actually my first tattoo, I've never shared this on the podcast, but my first tattoo that I got is the word overcome. And I got that because one of the animal ads, the guy was doing a one dumbbell row, and on his forearm, he had tattooed overcome. I was like so engrossed with Animal Pack. I was like, that's going to be my first tattoo. I didn't get it on my forearm. I got it underneath my, or I got it on my inner bicep, but so Animal Pack had a big influence on me. I love it, man. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've thought about covering it up, and I'm like, no. I was like,
man.
It's cool, man. So
it's history.
Yeah, it is history. It's kind of cool just to look back and smile on that now. But so Cole, tell us at what age did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I started lifting right around 14, 15 years old. Just had some friends that were training in the gym in the mornings. I've always been, fascinated with muscle and training and whatnot. I actually had even weights in my basement, all that stuff that I trained with. And I remember like probably 10, 12, they were always there. You kind of mess around with them. I never really counted that because I didn't like know anything I was doing. But when I started training at the high school in the mornings with some guys, I actually they were teaching me how to actually proper form and how to train. So, right around 14, 15, I started doing that. And to be honest, that's what like got me hooked. I honestly don't know if I've really like missed a training day since then.
Perfect. So talk to us a little bit, Cole, about your childhood, your upbringing. Tell us where you grew up, talk about, sports or anything, kind of the extracurriculars that you were involved with, family dynamics, anything kind of in that realm up to about high school, and then we'll move on from there. Okay.
I grew up in a really small town in southeastern Minnesota, Leroy. So kind of like a farm town. My dad owned a tire shop. So, that's where you went and got gas. That's where you went and got tires. All the farmers went there. So a very busy place for that area. So I grew up working there. It kind of teaches you discipline. And then school, I played sports. To be honest, I didn't really attach to any specific sport. I played some basketball. I think I played probably about every sport at least once. So growing up, I had one brother. So I think that also adds to the competitiveness because I didn't want him to beat me in anything. Didn't matter what it was. But me and him played a lot of basketball. So that's the main sport that I did play because of that. But, honestly, by about 10th grade, I quit all sports. But that was about the time, you know, I was 15 or so. That's when I started lifting in the mornings. I kind of just didn't really like the whole team sport thing. And I kind of like just going in and lifting by myself, doing my own thing. I did have like a couple friends that went in with me and we trained. I guess so, kind of engraved to be a bodybuilder, you know, this entire time, because I really didn't, I wasn't really attracted to team sports.
Makes a lot of sense. So talk to me a little bit more. How small are we talking about in terms of the town you grew up in?
Population under 900.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's small. I graduated with like 20 kids. So,
Okay. Yeah. Cause my hometown here in Iowa, where the gym's at and everything, where I currently live, it's less than 5,000. So, less than
okay. Yeah.
900
Yeah.
is really small. But I want you to talk to us a little bit more about growing up in a small town, growing up in the Midwest. You're from Minnesota. You still live in Minnesota. I'm in Iowa. We're border states, but talk about the Midwest, talk about growing up in a small town, talk about, you know, your dad's tire shop a little bit more, and just kind of having the farmers and just kind of that mentality around you and growing up, because it's a little bit different than, you know, say growing up in a bigger city. So just share a little bit more about the small town mentality and kind of what did that instill in you growing up?
Yeah. Obviously, so I never grew up in a big town, so I don't really know like what, you know, the difference would be for them. But growing up in a small town, like, so my uncle was a big farmer, still is. So, you know, picking rock, baling hay, those were my summers. During the weeks, if my dad needed help at the tire shop, they always had like semis with like tires and stuff come in. I really just went in and really just stacked tires, move tires around, just doing all the grunt work. So I think anytime that's like you're doing that stuff, it's instilled in you like for hard work. Um, you know, living in a bigger town or city like that, and you can't do that stuff. I'm assuming that, you know, you get caught up and probably get in a lot more trouble. You can't really get in trouble in a small town. You typically know the cops, you know everyone. Sure enough, in high school, I did plenty of dumb stuff, but like I said, you don't really get in trouble in small towns. You kind of get away with almost anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't change it for anything. I really like growing up in a small town. Taught me tons about, you know, working. I've never like second guessed my, you know, as far as like, I've always had a job. I've always had something to do, always strive towards something. Obviously you need that if you go on the bodybuilding route. It's something you're doing 24/7 every day, all day. Takes a lot of discipline. So I'd say growing up in a small town definitely helps with that. Obviously everyone comes from different walks of life, but you do see a lot of the blue collar guys who are bodybuilding. They kind of already have that all instilled into them.
100%. So you kind of got bitten by the bodybuilding bug pretty early, kind of the teenage years. What were you thinking about once you were kind of wrapping up high school, outside of like, you know, bodybuilding and kind of that fitness realm or world? Did you have thoughts about kind of like what you wanted to do post high school? And then how did that kind of form or take shape?
Um, I was also kind of a nerd in high school. So I actually originally went to college for computer science. You know, I liked training. I liked bodybuilding. I never was going to take that towards an actual career path. I kind of wanted to do something I enjoyed and then was still able to train, do what I wanted. But I guess I didn't really see making money in that area as something for me. But then the longer I did it, because I didn't compete till I was 20. So I just honestly trained and lived the lifestyle from like 15 to 20 just because I enjoyed it. So, you know, I went off to college. I started off as computer science. And then I just realized that I just kind of want to make this my living, regardless of, you know, not everyone's going to just become a pro bodybuilder. They're not going to toss tons of money at you. You know, obviously when you first start, you kind of like hope that's going to be it. But as I started getting into bodybuilding, it was right around the time when social media started growing more. So I saw a lot of guys like, you know, they all lost their contracts. There's no more MD contracts. There's none of that. So honestly, deterred me a little bit because I didn't really like the whole social media stuff. Because nowadays, you have to do this YouTube, you have to do the podcast, which is definitely growing on me. But I kind of want to just, honestly, like, just get paid to train and eat and lift. What I saw growing up, those guys do. That's what I wanted to do. So I'm glad I didn't put all my eggs in that basket, because going to college, trying all that stuff out, I did end up doing exercise science in college after. And then I did personal training for a bit, did that whole racket. To be honest, I don't really like training the general public. I like helping bodybuilders out and stuff. So I still help people get ready for shows every now and then. I won't call myself a coach by any means, but I do help some local athletes here get ready for shows, which is fun. But I kind of, stuff happens. I ended up starting selling exercise equipment randomly for a company. And now I've been doing that for almost probably 11, 12 years. I've switched companies, but that's kind of what I've been doing for the majority of my life and my career.
Perfect. It definitely makes sense. So let's take a step back then. You start training when you're in high school. You start really enjoying bodybuilding. You train for a few years, and then you said your first competition was at 20. So why don't you just walk us through that first competition? Did you have anybody helping you? What did that look like? What was the experience? And then let's just start kind of unpacking that competition history after you give us a little bit more in depth about the first one. Okay.
Yeah. I kind of fell into that show. I was never, honestly, I told myself I was never going to compete. I just like bodybuilding. Competing was not on my radar. When I moved back to Rochester, because I went to college in Bemidji. So for anyone who doesn't know where that is, it's like way up north of Minnesota, super cold. You think it's cold here in Minnesota right now. It's like -10 today. It's like -50 up there. So, but when I got back to Rochester, I had my friend from high school who I trained with. Me and him started training again, and he was going to do a bodybuilding show. And so I was just kind of like, well, fuck it. If he can do it, I can do it. So I honestly just winged it. No coach, I honestly, I don't even know if coaches were a thing back then. This was like 2010, I think. Yeah, 2010. At least I didn't know about coaches. I think, I knew like Chris Aceto and like some of those names, but like you didn't have a coach unless you're in Olympia, I thought. But as I got ready for the show, there was a guy in town who was already like a well-known bodybuilder. Some people might know his name. It was Ryan Fulton. He was a pretty good amateur bodybuilder in the area. And I literally walked up to him with a notepad and paper. I had my plan written out for the show, and I just showed it to him like, hey, is this stupid? Should I do anything else? Like, anything you can tell me, great. Which I think a lot of kids nowadays could learn from. Because since I run a shop with equipment and supplements and stuff, like a lot of them come in and they've done zero research. They've done nothing, and they're just expecting it all to kind of fall in their lap. So I wrote everything out, like what I was eating, what I was training. I just showed it to him. He made some changes. He could tell that I was already like attempting to do it right and trying. So he was more than willing to help me at that point. And then he helped me with posing like once or twice. And that was it. And I just went up and did the show. Like, it was a disaster. I didn't do that well. I got like 4th out of 5th. But I met a lot of good people at the show. And even though I didn't do well, I had people just go, hey, like you might got some potential there. Cause I wasn't small. I was 5'10", 200 pounds on stage. I wasn't near condition. I didn't have very good development. This isn't one of those stories where like, hey, I did my first show and I destroyed it. And then I went on to nationals. I got my pro card. This is the story of like, I trained for 10, 15 years just to like win a local show.
Perfect. Now, is that first show? I've seen some like I don't know if they're throwback pictures or comparison pictures, kind of like the beginning to now. But were the ones that I saw on Instagram? Did you have the black posing trunks on? Was that from your first show, or maybe another one?
Yeah, it was the NPC North Star. Okay. Yeah, usually if I throw up comparison pictures, it's with that one and the black trunks. I look terrible.
Well, I
that
mean,
one.
but you could definitely see though, you had some potential. I mean, your legs, I mean, yeah, you weren't
Yeah,
conditioned really, but you had some legs, you had some potential, right?
I thought I was shredded. Like that was the leanest I've ever been in my life.
Right, right. Yeah. Okay, so after that first show, tell us a little bit. I mean, because you said like, hey, I just love bodybuilding, I just want to train, I don't want to compete. You decided to compete. After that first show, were you like, hey, I want to continue to do this in terms of competing? Or how did that mindset look like after the first show? And then kind of talk about some more of that competition history, Cole.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not used to losing. In a small town, like, you don't have a lot to compete against. So when I got took fourth out of fifth, it kind of like pissed me off a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I think I could actually do this if I tried. Like I said, I kind of winged that prep. So I got a hold of I worked with Skip Hill actually, Ken Hill, just because that's who Fulton was working with. I really wish I knew more because honestly, like I was doing check-ins with him. I had no idea what I was doing. So if you're a first timer and you're with a coach, like I get it. That's why when I take on first timers and they're not sending me the right stuff and I'm having to like get on them a little bit, I've been there. Like, so I think I kind of like was spinning my wheels there because I didn't know what I was doing. But I definitely put on muscle. He definitely helped me as far as like meal regimen, everything. So it was a good experience. I did a show then the next year, did terrible again. But it was also a bigger show. It was like the Mr. Minnesota, and I placed out of the top 5. But that was also back when there was like 20 guys in like the light heavies. You don't see that anymore, but like the local shows were big. And then so I just kind of went from there. Like I bombed my first 2 shows, and I still was like, I want to do this. So I don't know why. I probably should have quit. Probably been smarter decision, but it's not what happened. I just kept thinking to myself, like, I can do this, I can do better. And at that point, my only goal is to win the Mr. Minnesota. Like, I'm like, if I can win that show, I'm good. Like I wasn't like amateur and pro, road to pro, hashtag road to pro, all the shit you see these days. I just wanted to win the local Minnesota show. And I honestly was like, kind of like, if I do that, I reach my goals and I can move on. But obviously that happened in 2017, and then I wasn't satisfied.
So what was it, Cole? You know, I like to ask this question, but like, what is it generally speaking about bodybuilding that you love? And then what kind of kept you competing, right? Because there's a lot of people that just train, they just love bodybuilding, they consume all the content and everything like that. And that's cool. Like you do you, we'll do us, right? But for those people that actually continue to compete after they maybe didn't do as well as they thought maybe they should or could, like what is it about bodybuilding, and then what is it specifically about competing that you just love and kind of keeps you pressing on, so to speak?
It's a very good question. I always just thought I was stubborn, but no, I'm gonna train, I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna do all this regardless because that is what I like to do. I could be done right now, never compete another day in my life. I'm not going to probably do it as extreme as I'm doing it right now, just because I'm like shoveling food in and feeling terrible in the off season. But I'd still be doing all the same fundamentals regardless. I think having a goal, having a show date, having something to strive towards just pushes me further to actually try. Because if I didn't have a show date, if I was done competing, like I said, I would still do it all, but not at this level. And granted, I haven't done that well in competitive history until recent. But I did get better every show, every year, whether it was more size, better conditioning. I've had a very slow linear, progress up. I've never done a show, got done, and was like, I took a huge step back. It's just, I didn't progress extremely fast either. But I guess that kind of keeps you humble.
For sure. Okay, so I know Dusty Hanshaw has been a really big influence in your progression as a bodybuilder, and maybe I think even you would say as a man. But When did Dusty kind of come on the scene? When did you start working with him? And talk about some of maybe the adjustments or changes he brought to you and how he really helped you to continue to progress as a bodybuilder.
Yeah, so I had a local coach after Skip that I started working with. He was just a really good friend of mine. And I won my first state show in 2015 in Wisconsin. It was called the Brew City. I won that with him. And then I went to USA's in 2016 just to kind of try my luck, because I kind of told myself, if I can win an overall at a state show, I might as well at least go try and see how I do. Didn't do very well, but there was Jacob Wilson. He's also a pro now. He was competing at that time, and he's really good friends with Dusty. And obviously, I knew who Dusty was, and I'd watched his videos and stuff like that. But when I was backstage with Jacob, same thing. You know, it's kind of like at the state level. But when I went to USA's, he's like, "Dude, you got a lot of potential. I think you need some help." And I'm like, "Fair enough." He goes, "You should work with Dusty. I think you two would click." And then he gave my number to Dusty. And then honestly, the next day I got a text from Dusty, and just kind of like, "I think we need to do this. I think we need to try. I think we need to work together." He just wanted to get on a phone call and talk, and that way to see if we're like going to mesh and see if we have the same kind of like ideals. And then he introduced me more to the high intensity DC training. I've been training more kind of like, and I'm sure the viewers will know what I'm saying, but more like Jay Cutler. You know, it was higher volume. That's how I trained prior to that. So he introduced me to that whole entire thing. I did strict DC for an entire year, which was pretty cool. It's way different than what I was used to. It got me out of my comfort zone. And then, you know, food, to be honest, doesn't really change a ton, but like he definitely showed me some different stuff. Different food types, different things you can try. You lose your appetite in the off season. So just working with different coaches, they have different ways to go about it. So working with Dusty from 2016 to 2021 was a very long period. And I learned a ton from him. So I'm really glad I got to do that. Yeah.
What do you feel like, you know, I know he made a huge adjustment with your training, but is there anything else that you feel like he just really, you know, obviously we get to see these athletes through YouTube and through social media, but when you actually like get to have like a conversation with them, and you begin to work with them, and it's almost like a mentorship type of a relationship outside of the training and maybe some of the bodybuilding stuff. Is there anything else that Dusty really like challenged you in or instilled in you during that long period that you guys were connected?
Well, I think the reason it worked so well is because, you know, honestly, we're a little bit alike in the fact of just, you know, consistency in and outside of the gym, you know, just honestly, just hard workers. So, you know, I checked in every 5 days with him for however many years that is. I'm not good with dates and numbers, so I'm not even going to try. But from 2016 to 2021, every 5 days I sent him a check-in. So when you do that for long enough, yeah, you get to know him. I went out there a few times to Arizona and I trained with him. So I mean, honestly, just through his actions and how he coached and everything, just showed me like, you know, if you're going to put in the work, you're going to be a hard worker. It doesn't matter how shitty your genetics are, you can do well. Because by no, like, yeah, people say I have potential, but by no means is anyone spouting off that as like the next Mr. Olympia. That's not me.
Right. So explain a little bit more, maybe for some of the listeners that aren't so familiar with DC training, Cole. Can you just maybe explain and break it down just a little bit more so we have a better understanding? Because we all hear about DC training. Now we have all this progressive overload and this training style and this methodology, and it just sometimes it's just overwhelming. I think it's a little too much, but DC is like definitely some hardcore original training from Dante. So break that down a little bit more in a simple form or fashion if you can for us.
Yeah, so I was, and just by saying DC training, there's a lot of different variations. So I did the one that Dusty sent me, and it was a push-pull legs. you know, this is one of those things where sometimes people do upper body, lower body. Sometimes they do push pull legs, and more advanced people with DC might even split up body parts. But traditionally, DC is going to be like a push pull legs, and you're doing just the meat and potatoes. You're not doing a lot. Like the warm ups are just warm ups. You're getting to that top set, and then you're usually doing like a rest pause or something to take yourself past failure. So you have that one set that you're going all out on. So, I mean, I'll give you an example, like a push day. I would do a bench press. I would start with the bench press. I would warm up very minimally, doing, you know, nothing to actually fatigue myself. I get up to a top set, say an incline bench press 315, and then I would do a rest pause or something of that nature. Go to absolute failure, like nothing left in the tank. I mean, you can't have anything left. Otherwise, that style of training doesn't work. You can't, because you can make up for it for volume, but there is no volume with DC training. Because I did that, and then I did one all-out set of flies, and that was it for chest. Move on, same thing for shoulders. You got one press, you got one lateral raise. Move on to triceps, same thing. Had close grip bench and a tricep extension. That was push day. So the one other thing Dusty showed me by doing that, he had 3 different push days, 3 different pull days, 3 different leg days, and I rotated them, which honestly helped a lot, I think, with joints and longevity. But then also you're able to progress further in those movements. Because if I did incline bench press every single week, you're going to plateau quickly and you're not going to get anywhere. So that was probably, honestly, I think the best thing he showed me is because I always did that. I would pick like incline bench press. I would do it every week. I also got a lot of tweaks and injuries I found out by doing that. So even if I just rotate 2 exercises, like week 1, I do dumbbell, week 2, I do barbell or something like that, that helped a ton. But yeah, that kind of gives you a gist of DC, like, but people have their own variations of it. If you're going to take anything from it, like progressive overload or DC training, is not overdoing the warm-ups is the biggest thing. Because usually with volume training, you're doing 10 reps, 10 reps, 10 reps, 10 reps. By the time you get to your top set, you're worn out. With progressive overload or DC style training, you might do 10, you might do 2, just enough to touch the weight, and then go all out on your working set.
Perfect. So, how has your training up to this point kind of transformed or changed, or what is kind of the way that you approach your training at this point, Cole?
I've taken just a variety of everything I've learned from everyone, and I kind of apply it as needed. So recently I actually tore something in my leg. I can get really strong. So I've tried telling myself is I don't need to just add more weight, because I know I can do it. It's not a problem. But tendons, ligaments, over time, I'm getting a little older. So I like to think I'm starting to train a little bit smarter. So I still like on my compound movements is still progressive overload style, minimal warm-ups, and doing a all-out top set, working set, whatever you want to call it. And then I'll usually do like a back off or like a cluster set or something for the back off. So that's been kind of how I've structured it. But then that's for my compound movements. And then my accessory movements, I may do 4 sets of 10, or, you know, with progressing the weight up, more volume. But to be honest, I don't really stick to any method, because I've just found out if I stick to something very strictly and I don't listen to my body, that's when I've gotten some injuries. So I just try to be flexible with my training. I prefer to do progressive overload. Like, that's what I prefer. That's what feels the best. But you know, with flies or some of your smaller accessory movements, I've just found that those don't feel the best. Like leg extensions, I'm not going to just work up to an all-out top set. It just kills my knees. So I'll add more volume into some of those accessories now. So I like to think I'm kind of doing like a hybrid of both. But you'll see a lot of guys kind of training that way now, where they're utilizing stuff from progressive overload on their compound movements, and then they're doing more volume on their accessory movements.
Makes sense and sounds good. So I want to get back into your competition history a little bit. What was the first show that you did with Dusty? And then just kind of talk about leading up to just this past year, the 2021 NPC Junior National. So just talk a little bit about that competition history with Dusty, and then let's start talking about last year's overall at the Junior Nationals.
Yeah, now I gotta see if I can get these right. So me and Dusty started working in 16, and then 17 we did the USA's again. That was by far my best showing, but I still didn't crack the top 10. So went back to the drawing board. We took all of 18 off, and then came back to 2000. No. God, see, I knew I'd butcher this. I think it was 2018 Nationals. So we went from the 17 USAs all the way to the end of 18 Nationals. And then same thing. I looked better, did better, was heavier, condition was better. I still didn't crack the top 10 at the Nationals. And then I took 19 and 20 off. That's why it was during the whole, pandemic thing. We originally were going to compete in 20, and then stuff started going south, and then we just decided, I can never be big enough, so why don't we just take another off season? So I took all of 19, all of 20 off, and then we started prepping. Me and Dusty were still prepping for shows then for 21, and the entire time it was Junior Nationals, and then we were going to hit a USA's or something, North Americans or something. That was kind of the plan all along. And then obviously going into 21, Dusty had some issues. He was unable to prep or finish my prep. That's when I reached out to Matt Jansen, which I've talked with him. I think at the 16 USA's, he either had a bunch of athletes there or he competed himself. I can't remember, but we met there and talked. Even at that time, I was chatting with him potentially about working with him. But things transpired and I started working with Dusty. So we've been in touch. He was currently coaching Braden, my training partner. So it just seemed like an easy transition. However, the circumstances weren't that great. Dusty had his throat issue and was hospitalized. So he was unable to coach anyone during that time. So Matt was just grateful enough to take over at literally like a week out from my qualifier so that way I could actually do Junior Nationals. So I remember literally getting my plan from him at like 6 days out. And I didn't expect much. I mean, I was already conditioned. I was already, I was pretty much there. But with the transitional period, I was trying to make sure, if Dusty could finish the prep, obviously that's what I was going to do. But it just wasn't going to work out. And that showing was still, honestly, Matt's great. Yeah, I don't know what he does. I don't know, like his peaking isn't like complicated, but he was able just to read me like a book. When I left to go, it was in Milwaukee, here in Wisconsin. And when I got there, I was like, oh, this is going to be just terrible. Like, from the stress and switching coaches last minute, I didn't have a lot of faith. I sent him my first set of check-in pictures from the hotel, and Matt literally just messaged me back. He goes, we're winning Junior Nationals, right? And I was just like, oh man, I'm like, I like the confidence, but like, I want to get through this. And sure enough, dude, like I woke up the next morning from him just like depleting, carb loading me, water, the whole manipulation thing he did. I woke up, I did a couple poses, and my wife was in the room with me, and she's just like, holy shit. She goes, you look day and night different. And I've never had that. Never once have I ever woke up the day of the show and I had that like my glutes are like in, like, things are happening. So I started believing right there. I'm like, whatever this dude says, I'm just gonna do. Like this is working. I don't know how it's working, but he definitely has an eye that for prepping people, especially for peaking. He has a great eye. Then I end up, that show is actually competitive. Not saying that state shows aren't, but to be honest, I was doing a state show and I'd been competing a while. I'd won 2 overalls prior to that. So I felt pretty confident that I could go into any state show around the area and probably win. It probably made me a little more nervous than I should have been because it did take 2 years off. And I was like, if I lose this is going to be embarrassing. I'm not going to lie. That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, I can't lose this show. But what ended up happening is there was almost no supers. I was the only one signed up the day of the show, or the day of like check-ins. And then what happened was there was a Illinois show that got shut down. They weren't going to due to like, COVID reasons. The entire show then for the like Illinois came over to Milwaukee, and everyone competed at that show last second, which honestly I prefer to have competition. But so that show ended up being a pretty stacked show. There was 4 supers, which I know is not a ton, but usually there's none. Usually, like if I go and do a show and anyone over 225, there's usually 1, maybe 2 guys. So ended up winning that, took the overall, everything. Honestly, it's probably my best showing. And then me and Matt had another 5 weeks to improve till junior nationals.
So what was it like? I mean, you had that transition period between Dusty and Matt, and you're like, man, this probably isn't going to go very well. What was it like, when you actually saw what Matt was capable of as a coach, and he kind of brought you in the way that you've never been brought in before, and then you walk away from the overall with junior nationals? Like, talk about those feelings, those emotions, and how big of a win was that personally for you in terms of just like, man, I'm just going to keep moving forward with this bodybuilding thing.
I mean, 2010 through 2018, I've pretty much, other than I did win 2 overall state shows, but majority of the shows I got my butt kicked at. So when we went to junior nationals, Matt was very confident. I was trying to be confident because I saw what he did before, but I've never done good at anything above a state show up to this point. In junior nationals, yet again, because a lot of people were trying to requalify and do things. Junior nationals was a big show. There was a lot of people there. They had moved it to Tennessee as well, which was good on their part. And then just to give a shout to the junior nationals, they switched like everything as far as like who they were working with, who was running it, and they did a phenomenal job. Stage, the lighting, just the people backstage, everything was spot on. It's probably one of the most professional shows, one of the best shows I've done. So shout out. I was impressed. It was like a mini Olympia. But going forward, same thing. I got out there. Braden came with me to this show, which helped just kind of, ease some of the tension from running around and, trying to make sure you have everything you need. And then things just clicked. I was eating an astronomical amount of food after I landed, and I was just flabbergasted. At one point it was like 400 grams of rice with, oil and, a little bit of fish. And I'm like looking at this massive bowl of food, and I'm like, my weight's going to go up. It's got to. I eat it. And just so you know how most coaches like this, Dustin was like this too, but with Matt, it was literally eat, lay down for an hour, pose, check in with him with either in person or with photos, and then he'll send you what to eat next. And that was just the process. I was eating around the clock. I was posing around the clock from the minute I landed in Tennessee till the second I got off stage at the night show. So Matt really knows what he's doing. He had everything just like clockwork, which helps. It definitely helps for his confidence as far as that goes. But like I said, it was just like Milwaukee all over again. He told me what to eat. I did it. Every time I did check-ins, every time I got on the scale, I was eating, like I said, that massive amount of food. My weight was going down. I couldn't believe it. That's when like your body's just sucking everything up. It's just absorbing everything. So it was a phenomenal experience there with Matt. And when I got to prejudging and I got off stage, I just remember Matt walking over to me and he goes, "Put your phone away. Don't go on your phone." He goes, "I don't want you on that thing. I want you to go back to the room. I want you to go to sleep." And as we wake up, message me first. And I just remember just like, I kind of get why he was doing it, but I was just like, I was antsy. I'm like, well, how did I look? Like, what's going on? Like, but that's why, whether it's positive feedback or negative feedback, it's nothing that I can change or do. So, you just want me to just go back and relax and not have to think about it. And I won't lie, I had a peak. And someone had posted a photo of my most muscular in the lineup. And I looked at Braden, who I was with at the time, and I was like, dude, do you see this? I'm like, that's me. It was the first time ever I had that like epiphany, like, that looks kind of good. That's not bad. I think that's competitive. So that was the epiphany I had when I was like, I think I might have won the show. But I honestly, but then I took what Matt said. Like, I turned my phone off. I put it on the couch. I just went lay on the couch and I just went to sleep and try not to think about it. And everything worked out. It was one of those things where I didn't really, honestly, I went there. I didn't expect to win, but after prejudging, it was pretty apparent that I had an excellent shot at winning. And yeah.
So I want you to talk a little bit more about this, then we'll move on. But like when it came to finals and then, you found out that you won, I mean, that's a legit big win for anybody within the NPC. So how did that make you feel? I mean, in terms of confidence and like moving forward, what were your thoughts kind of in that moment or some of the days post show?
Well, the whole point of me doing junior nationals was to prove to myself, if I could win the show, I could probably go on to USA's and maybe, win a pro card. So by, honestly, I got off. I just remember when they called my name, I was just like, honestly, like nothing's going through my head at that point. I'm just like flabbergasted. When they call your name, you're the winner, you're the overall, you walk out. I'm just like, holy shit, this is actually happening. I don't even know what to think. Honestly, the coolest part is Braden, my family, everyone was there to see it. Even because Brett Wilkin was there, and he was guest posing, and me and him have a long history. I was with him when he was competing in classic physique. So it was just one of those surreal moments. I got off stage and he was backstage just from that. And I just like walked down there, him and Matt were there, and I was like, man, this is just crazy. Everything's just coming back around. Like I didn't know what to say. I just remember walking over to Matt and I was like, what's next? What do you want to do next? What are we doing? And we were going to go and do a pro qualifier right after that. But his big thing with me was, he goes, I just want you to be an actual competitive pro. I don't think you're there yet, which I would agree. So he goes, let's just take a year, see what we can do, come back. He goes, I think you have all the tools to win a pro card. It's just, do you have the tools then to get on a pro stage? So that was kind of the conversation we had. And then I just said, yes, sir. We went back, started training. We started the off season, and we're prepping now for the 2022 USAs.
Perfect. Okay. So this is something I want you to talk about a little bit more in depth, Cole. And I've seen you, do some posts about and stuff like that. But if you want to call it the grind, or kind of, what goes on when you're actually not on stage, and like what it actually takes behind the scenes to be a competitive national level bodybuilder. And then obviously at some point, a pro. You took 2 years off before you did junior nationals, and we live in this Insta world, right? And all these younger people that are coming up, they see everybody on Instagram, they see you with your most muscular shot. And there's just a lot of people that, are delusional. You know what I mean? They're just straight up delusional. I want you to talk though a little bit about the importance of being that individual that maybe doesn't have the best genetics. And like, if you truly love bodybuilding, like, it's going to take time. Talk about the grind, talk about the importance of taking time off. You took 2 years off. You took this whole last year off before you do your pro qualifier later this year. Just talk about that a little bit more. Talk to maybe some of those people that are a little bit delusional in terms of like, we see the Phil Heath, we see some of these guys that kind of go through the ranks really quick. That's uncommon, right? So touch on that, please.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to be Phil Heath. Everyone wants the fairy tale. But to be honest, if you gotta like look at yourself and just be honest in the mirror and do I have what it takes to do what I want to do, whether it's to win that state show, whether it's to just compete for the first time, or do a national show. Because if you are just going to do show after show and you're not getting any better, you're just wasting your time. I've been there. I did that. I did probably too many shows back to back, thinking I was going to improve quickly, which some people do. And, hats off to them. I saw it firsthand. Everyone knows probably Charles Griffin. He's here in Minnesota. I competed against him at his first show ever. He kicked my butt. He won. I won my class. He won the overall. And I saw that dude literally just every show get bigger, better, crazier. Like I said, that's not normal. What's probably more normal is what happened with me. And that is you'll, obviously at some point you got to do your first show. You got to find a baseline. I trained for what? 5 years before I did a show. So I'd say anyone who's looking at doing a show, first of all, do it because you want to train. Do it because you want to eat. Do it like you got to have those things instilled in you. If you just woke up one morning, never trained, never ate, like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to do a show. I think that's stupid. I don't think you're going to. I don't want to deter anyone, but let's get to the gym and see if you even like it. Do you like training? Do you like eating? Do you like doing this? Because it's a monotonous grind, like you had said, and it doesn't get any easier. It's just more food, more training, and you can't miss. There's no I'm going to take a week off, or I'm going to, I don't want to eat this meal, or I'm full. No, you got your plan. You do it no matter what. If you don't, you're not going to get better. It's pretty simple. That's why I like helping the younger kids that are starting out, is because they blow up. It doesn't matter what they do. I can give them food and give them training, and they're going to get better. They're going to put 20, 30 pounds on. When you get to the stage where I'm at, yeah, man, if I can get just marginally better, I'm happy. Like, how much muscle did you put on for your stage weight? I'm like, I put on 2 pounds this year. Like, I did a whole year for 2 pounds. Most people think that's absolutely crazy, and that's not really making that good of progress. But the cool thing is me and Braden both have kind of like, I guess, our favorite photos up on the wall. And in his photo, it's when he won the USA's, and he's like 214, 215 pounds. And then my shot was my most muscular from juniors. And I woke up the morning of that show and I was like 230. 230 is the lowest I was. Maybe I got on stage like 235. But either way, classic to open bodybuilder, there was maybe 15, 20 pounds difference. It probably looked more like there's 100 pounds difference. So some people also got to realize that is the weight on the scale and all that, as well as it doesn't mean a whole lot, to be honest. It's how you look. So if you want to do bodybuilding, I'm helping some kids right now. I'm like, take pictures once a week, take your weight once a week. Here's the program. If you're going to miss meals and you're going to miss training, don't even bother checking in then, until you do a full week of this. I don't really have any feedback for you anyways. I feel like people get caught up on numbers and they get caught up on all this stuff, but they don't want to actually be consistent and train, which I'm not talking about everyone, but for those people who are trying to do this and they're not seeing the results, I can guarantee that's probably what it is.
Right on. So I want to touch on Matt just a little bit more. Now that you've been working for him for a contest and then off season, how has he kind of switched up things for you, or what are some of the changes or adjustments? What does it look like with him in terms of maybe some of those past coaches with your training, your eating, and just the bodybuilding lifestyle?
Yeah. So, post show, I'll just start there. He was just kind of like, don't go crazy, but you can have some free meals. So I probably had like 2-3 bodybuilding meals, 1 or 2 cheats. Our carb up was so heavy, like the 2-3 days after the show, I didn't want to look at food. So I ate like 4 meals a day for like the next 2 or 3 days. Then, you know, obviously then he wanted my body to equalize out, wanted my body weight to actually come back down. So we did that for a while. So honestly, I was just back into like a deficit for maybe 1-2 weeks. And then we slowly ramped the food back up. I don't know if anything's that much different because when we started prep, he already changed things. And the biggest thing when I started working with him right away is he actually upped my fats, which I'm not used to. So, but it worked. So that's why I'm saying I'm not going to complain about anything. But he upped my fats. So like right now, over a time, it took a while, but he keeps everything really basic. You know, I'm doing about 250 grams of said meat 6 times a day. That's cooked weight. And then he's ramped my rice. I do pretty much rice and creamer rice, and some Dave Killer's bread is like my some fruit or my carb sources. But I've never had. I mean, a couple of my meals are like 400 grams of rice, which that's a lot of rice. So he's really pumping a lot of clean food into me. And I currently am not doing any cheat meals. I haven't done a cheat meal since like maybe like a month post show. It's just been the same food every day. Honest, I'm not gonna lie, I've struggled like getting this amount of clean food in every single day, every day. I've had, you know, sometimes it takes me an hour to get a meal down. Sometimes I like feel like I'm just gonna gag and throw it all up. You know, it's, you know, I know bodybuilding's super sexy. So, but, and then as far as everything else outside the food, the training, he's kind of let me and Braden write out our old stuff. We send it to him. He looks it over. It's just a good thing that me and Braden have kind of the same weak points. So our training together works really well. We're both just trying to bring up our backsides. Otherwise, you know, like I said, I've had some issues with my stomach, just trying to get all the food down. Matt's been super good, helping me figure those out and finding a way that way we can keep pushing the food. And then I did slightly tear something in my left adductor. I haven't had an injury like that in a while. Same thing, stupid. I got too strong on the hack squat, and then I did some split squats right after, really tight, and ended up just popping something. But honestly, I think it's good because now I've kind of retrained everything. You know, starting from scratch. I've kind of adapted that into all my training now, where I lighten the load up just a little bit, go a little bit higher rep range, and focusing on actually like controlling them. Like, not that I didn't control it before, but even just emphasizing yet a little bit more, like a 3 count.
Perfect. So what was the decision on the USA's later this year? Why did you guys or why are you guys choosing that show? And when will you officially begin prep for that then, Cole?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, when I got off stage from juniors, that was we had said 2022 USA's, that's the show. So the day I got off, that's kind of what we've been planning. That's what we've been prepping for. We talk every Monday. So this last Monday, he said 20 weeks out is when prep starts. You know, we all know, like I said, I'm eating the same food as I was eating show day, just more of it. So, but that's when we'll start peeling back the body fat. I've kept cardio in 7 days a week, 20 minutes on the step mill or bike this entire off season. He's kept me a lot leaner than I'm used to. I'm by no means like super lean. Definitely got some fat on me, but I haven't gone any higher than 275 in my body weight. So my body's, you know, honestly, I feel like I'm more functional in the gym. Anyone who's like bulked up to 300 pounds knows that their air and their oxygen, all that stuff, like at a certain point, it's like, can you even train properly? So I've actually enjoyed this because my food is super high, but my body fat's not getting horribly out of control. I would say I'm someone who, if you give me a cheat meal, I could probably eat everything, like the whole pizza, the whole carton of ice cream. I probably go overboard a little bit. So that's probably why Matt took that away and just told me to just eat more clean food. I don't crave it. It's not like, but if you tell me I can have it, I'm definitely going to eat.
I can feel it coming through the screen, man, that you could probably plow down some good cheat food here anytime soon, right?
Yeah. If it gives me the go ahead, it's going to go down.
Oh, man, if you don't get anything up to the point of USA's, man, it's gonna be crazy post show what you're gonna eat. But so we're gonna wrap it up here in a few more minutes. I want to touch on a couple more things, Cole. But going focused on USA's for for the last year for you personally. I'm sure you and Matt have discussed things, but for you personally, I'm just being really transparent. What do you hope to accomplish at USA's this year? Is it pro card or bust?
Yes.
Or where are you
Yes.
at with that?
I'm either winning the show or I'm going to be upset.
Perfect.
Not upset at anyone, upset at myself. Be honest, I got off stage at Junior Nationals and I thought that look could probably win USA's. So if I can come back with more muscle and same conditioning, if not better, because I really thought that was damn near 100% for me. The night show at Junior Nationals was spot on. I don't know if like the conditioning could have got any better. It was full, dry, everything was popping. I mean, people saw photos. I was flabbergasted, even that like some of the people had posted up pictures of it and reshared it. It's definitely a good showing. So I truly believe if I can bring that with a little bit more muscle, say 5-10 pounds more, there's no reason I can't win. I know there's going to be some good guys there, which I'm looking forward to. And we've shared words, so they know. But they're going to have to, settle for second place, and hopefully their next show goes better.
I love it, man. I've had I think a couple of those guys that on the podcast that are focused on USA's as well,
Yeah.
and that's something I had an awesome opportunity to connect with some of the guys before nationals this last year, and then post nationals. That's really what I'm going to focus on. Try to get USA's, North Americans, nationals this year. Get some of you guys on pre-show, just kind of get your mindset, and then hopefully wrap up post-show. So we'll definitely shoot for that with you, Cole. Now, you've brought up Braden quite a bit through the conversation. At some point, I'm going to reach out to him and get him on the podcast because he's an IFBB Pro. But talk about just your relationship with him. How did you guys meet? And what does it mean to have a pro bodybuilder as a faithful training partner? How has that kind of helped you and pushed you in terms of your bodybuilding progression?
Yeah. So when he started, I had already been competing for a while. So he hasn't been competing near as long as I have. And obviously we all know Classic, what was Classic 2015, something like that.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right. 15, 16 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Me and dates don't work well, but anyways, so he did men's physique starting out. I didn't know him that well when he was doing that stuff, but obviously we were living in the same area. But then when he was getting ready for, I think it was Junior Nationals one year, he was training at the same gym that I was. And you know how those last few weeks, people just look like shit. And I kind of just like did one of those like, hey man, like, cause he was also, I think at that point, Brett Wilkin, my friend, was actually his coach. So, me and Brett, I talked about him, and, he had asked me to like kind of watch him and stuff and try to help out if I could, with posing or anything. And I saw him, like I said, it was like 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks out. And I was just like, dude, I think you need like a little push. And I was like, let's just start training together. I'm like, just to get you through this show. And that's just how it started. And I think I was like deep off season or something like that. So like I had plenty of energy to spare. So I had helped him kind of finish that prep out. And then after that, we decided like, hey man, like he's got goals, I got goals. It's definitely gonna be beneficial to have someone, there's no way. I don't care who you are. You're not motivated every day to go to the gym. You got days where you just feel like shit or you're tired or whatever. But man, when you got someone who's at the gym waiting for you to get your ass there to train. It's something different, because no matter how tired I am, no matter how I feel, if I get my ass in the gym and he's there, shit just starts clicking and it starts moving. So I know I like training alone. Like, I'm not saying that I couldn't do that, but now training with a training partner is like, because we've been training now for, I don't know, 3 years or so. It's like hard to imagine not having that person to go in there and train with and help push you. It's not like that you need a spotter. It's just having someone there in your ear, making sure you're getting every rep and you're not dogging it. In the off season, it's probably not as apparent that you need it, but when you're 4 weeks out, and the thought of just even, having to load the bar is, daunting. It's super nice to have someone there, help you, push you, get those last few reps. I mean, yeah, there's a little banter going back and forth, so you got to have that. I'm definitely competitive. And he's classic physique and I'm open bodybuilding. So there's no way I'm letting him be stronger than me in any movement ever. So I think it's good. We work good together that way. So yeah, you'll have to get him on. Like I said, he's going to be doing a show this year, his pro debut, I'm pretty sure. I'll let him divulge all that information, but we have dates up on we have a little whiteboard at the gym. So we're going to be pushing each other. We'll be prepping at the same time. So that'll be interesting. So anyone else at the gym, probably just, maybe not talk to us for the last 4 weeks.
Okay. So speaking of the gym, talk a little bit, Cole, about where you guys train, how you guys kind of have that set up, why you set it up that way, because I've been following you for quite a while the last year on social media, because you and I actually had a conversation on my other podcast. So I see where you're training. Looks like a pretty awesome place, but talk a little bit about that. And then I got a couple more things and we'll finish it out here.
Yeah. So obviously the pandemic happened. They shut down all the gyms. We were lucky enough. There was a gym in town, and the owner, she let us kind of like train there, even though the gyms were all closed. And so he finished out his prep there that he was in during the time, and we trained there regardless. But even though we actually started getting equipment and we were putting it in his garage just in case. And we had all kind of, everyone wants to have their own spot. Everyone wants to have their own gym. If you're in this, that's like a goal of everyone's. So the town is very saturated as far as commercial gyms go. So I didn't really have like any grand ideas of opening up this like massive gym and trying to make that my living, because of currently where I work and what I do at the fitness shop, it's very demanding and I have plenty to do there. But we thought if we could get like 30, 40, 50 people all pitch in, we could get like, a small spot, and then we could all just, pay like $100 a month, and that would pay for the rent. So that's exactly what we did. So we have a 2,000 square foot spot. It's packed full of the best equipment we could find, Arsenal, Prime, Cybex, so we have some really good stuff in there. I'm not gonna lie. Even though it's only 2,000 square feet, it's better than any gym in town. Because if you have the right people there, you have the right atmosphere, but then also you have the people picking the equipment that know what they're doing. You could take a very small spot and make that thing very effective. So it's just turned out to be awesome. We got this little spot we can go in. There's no key card access. There's nothing fancy. There's no showers. There is a bathroom. So you got that. There's no front desk. There's there's nothing. You walk in and you're walking straight into the gym. So honestly, I want to have it in a way right now, maybe down the road, we could expand upon this idea and go that way. But as of right now, it's just really cool. Everyone in there has goals. We do hand pick. So it's not like you can just like walk in and sign up. We kind of have an interview process, and we talk to people and just make sure that everything's going to line up, because we don't want any drama. We don't want any problems there. That's not what the spot's for. You want some of that, you go to a commercial gym and, you sit on your phone and dink around wherever you want there. Not the place for it. We're pretty blunt, but everyone who does train there really appreciates it.
Very cool. And the name of the gym and where is it actually located in Minnesota, Cole?
It's the Den in Rochester, Minnesota. So it's technically High Grade Physiques. So that's the personal training company that me and Braden do. He coaches quite a few clients out of there. We do posing out of there. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Excellent, man. And if somebody is in that area and they do want to, possibly get interviewed to be a member or to be a part of that gym, do they just kind of reach out to you or Braden through Instagram? Is that the best way?
Yeah, mine and Braden Instagram. Otherwise, it's I should know this, right? Anyways, there's a Den page too. It's like _Den 507, I think. Instagram page, or you can catch me or Braden's Instagram page, send us a message. We have people that come down all the time for day passes. You just have to schedule ahead of time. We do plan on getting an actual I'm not sure what you use for your gym, but one of those key card accesses where you can send like the codes to your phone and you just scan in with your phone and all that stuff. Just to make it a lot easier, because we're not there all the time, but that way if someone's in the area and they're like, hey, I want to go train right now, just send them a code, they can scan the front door and go in. So that's something we're going to implement here probably the next few months, hopefully.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So kind of the last major topic I want to touch on with you, Cole, is being a dad. Anybody that follows you on Instagram, you definitely are deep within the bodybuilding world, but you're also pretty deep into fatherhood and the family life, which is awesome. So talk about your kids, talk about your wife. How integral are they in just the day-to-day and kind of this whole bodybuilding journey that you're on?
Yes, I have 3 kids. The littlest is Emmy, she's 2, and then I have Landon, just turned 6, and then my oldest Hayden, who is 7. So kids are a lot of work, but I started bodybuilding way before kids. So I like to think that, I've kind of just integrated it all into my life. So I can see how someone who had kids and then tried to get into bodybuilding would struggle a little bit, because they're very demanding, whether it's going to school. I mean, like right when I get done here, I gotta grab the 2 boys and we're going to get haircuts. So, it's a lot on the plate, but, I wouldn't have it any other way. They're also a lot of fun. You kind of like make your own people, and then I play video games with my sons now and, whatnot. So that's all really cool. They all love the bodybuilding. They love going to the shows. My oldest son, he came out to Chattanooga in Tennessee for juniors. He just has so many questions. And although I think he has a little bit of a skewed view of me now because he saw me win everything this year. So I think he just thinks I'm like a really good bodybuilder. So hopefully we can keep that going for him, so I don't have to let him down. But even when we went to the local shows, all 3 of them came. So it's really cool having everyone there. And then my wife Megan, oh god, we've been together 15 years. This year will be our 10-year anniversary for actually being married. So she's seen little Cole, big Cole, really big Cole, fat Cole. So she's been around for the whole ride. So yeah.
Cool, man. I love that. So we're gonna close it out here, wrap it up. Cole, last question that I have for you, and then I'll kind of give you the final words. But in terms of your ultimate bodybuilding vision, goal, dream, what is that? And kind of is it something that you think about often? Is it something that you have written down somewhere? How do you kind of keep that at your forefront?
I mean, to be honest, you live it every day. Every time I'm making a meal, every time I'm eating a meal, every training session, it's probably an addiction. It's one of those things where there's not a day that I don't wake up and the first thing I'm doing is mixing my EAAs. Now I got cardio. Then I gotta get my meal down. Then I gotta get to training session. So I don't really have to it's just there. I don't have to think about it. It's not something that I like daydream about, because it's just all day, every day it's there. I mean, as far as like my goal right now is to win the USAs, obtain my pro card. I wouldn't say I don't have any grand delusions that I'm going to be like an amazing pro and pull a Nick Walker and, do all that. However, if I do happen to get my pro card, I will, depending this year, maybe next year, I'm definitely gonna do a pro show. I'm gonna get up on stage and see how I compare to some of those guys. And to be honest, I'm probably gonna pick a show where some of the guys I know, like, Brett or whatever, I just want to compete against them. But they're gonna kick my butt, but I think that'd be a lot of fun. Just the fact that I could get a pro card, do a show, be around that. It's your people. It's like what you like to do. So I'm definitely excited. I want to see what I can do. It's a challenge. I'm 32, so this isn't like something I'm going to be doing for the 10, 15 years. So I'm going to give everything I have for the next, however many years I can do this, and just see how far I can take it and have fun.
Perfect, man. All right, Cole. So first of all, thank you for coming on. Like I said earlier, we chatted, I don't know, probably 8-9 months ago after your overall at Junior Nationals on my other podcast. So I thought it'd be great to have you on Behind the Muscle. I know a lot of the listeners will be excited to listen to this episode, but so thank you for coming on. I'll definitely reach out to you. You're very welcome. I'll definitely reach out to you. We'll try to touch base before USAs and then hopefully get you on after. But before we get to all that, before I close this out, if you have any final thoughts or words for myself and the listeners, go ahead, share those, and then share your Instagram and any sponsors or anything else that you want to put out there.
I don't have any like philosophical wisdom or whatever, but so hopefully I didn't bore everyone. Hopefully you get something out of this. So hopefully you don't waste an hour of your life. But as far as sponsors go, check out Iron Rebel. If you want to check out my Instagram page, all my codes are on there. Obviously, that just helps support me. But other than that, I just appreciate you having me on, get a chat, and people can, follow along.
Perfect. All right, Cole. I appreciate it. And just for all of those of you tuning into this episode of Behind the Muscle, I will have Cole's Instagram down in the show notes. I'll try to also get their gym's Instagram handle down in the show notes as well. I can't promise I'll remember that. I will try, but like Cole said, if you want to touch base with him, his Instagram will be in the show notes of the podcast, and then you can just go to his Instagram and find their gym if you want to do that. So all of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you guys supporting Behind the Muscle by just following on Instagram, subscribing on YouTube. If it wasn't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. Got some awesome guests coming down the pike here still this weekend and in the weeks to come. So make sure you guys are continuing to tune in. If you guys want to stay up on all the episodes current, make sure you have subscribed or go subscribe right now to the YouTube channel. I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to the other podcast platforms. So make sure you have subscribed to that YouTube channel. And then one last final favor I'd ask of all of you, take this episode of Cole specifically, make sure you share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Cole, tag Behind the Muscle so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.